a culture of startups showing what can be done with corporations trying to get stuff done. And it's going to be interesting how this actually plays out. So to begin with, just real quick, MetLife, we're a pretty big company. So we like to say 145 years young. 60,000 associates. We're in 46 countries at this point, a Fortune 50 company. And we've got a lot of legacy built up. I mean, we've got both the historical, the mature legacy, as well as the technology legacy that we were one of the first companies installing a UNIVAC computer in the 50s. And it's still in a little museum we have within MetLife. You could see it. But it's exciting that we have been at the forefront of technology because insurance and data are key. I mean, they go hand in hand. In the 20s, we actually, in the New York World's Fair, I think in 1929, we actually had a booth that you click a button and a light bulb would show you how long you're predicted to live. A little scary. I think we've taken that a little bit further, but it is interesting, and we'll see here. So with that, let's go through some things. Ready? Technology and insurance, it wasn't very cool. So I left Wall Street after 20 years to join MetLife 2 years ago. And there's a lot of questions like, why are you leaving going insurance? What's exciting about insurance? So the one thing we set out to do was to show that we don't need to catch up. We could actually jump ahead. And we could leapfrog. So in the past year, we've been in the news at least 30 to 40 times. We are one of the few tech companies, I call it tech companies because we are, that was in Fortune magazine with a full-page write-up about what we're doing in technology, which is an exciting place to be. We won awards for Model Insurer of the Year. We've been in Forbes. We've been in Financial Times. We're in all the places you want to be, showing what we can do. But the number one thing it's about is talent. So it's about people and talent. And that's the one thing I've learned is just surround yourself with talent. You could really do anything at that point. So with that said, let's see if this works. So with that said, this is actually pretty interesting. So the latest statistics from my own team, and I'm one of the 3 technology heads in MetLife. So for my own team, it's about 2,600 employees and plus a few thousand consultants. The number of females versus male is on the left versus right. So we are a technology group, 50-50. It actually very interesting. So we get to go and say Facebook, pretty much we did it, and but it's actually a pretty interesting statistic. It's about diversity of thought, and it's about the real goal here is there's a lot of roles in technology, and people have to understand how the roles make sense, how you work with each other, and what's been changing since the past 20 years, how the roles are changing. So just one interesting fact to share. I did actually just want to embarrass. So with me today, I was busy in the back on LinkedIn watching. I might have missed 1 or 2 people, but literally with me today, I have a lot of our superstar leaders in MetLife, and they're here in the audience. You should grab them and ask questions, not me. But literally, this is a very senior team that's been here today. They're helping change MetLife. It's about talent. I'm going to share a few interesting stories. So on the top right on LinkedIn, I saw one of my SWAT employees. I personally recruited her out of Department of Defense. Her last job was in Afghanistan using big data to find terrorists and funds, and she's testified at Guantanamo Bay. She literally is in our new Raleigh campus, Amy Gaskins. I found this LinkedIn post just last week, and I figured I'd share it, which is today marks my first anniversary at MetLife. Travel stats, 65,000 miles, 92 days, 5 countries, and 24 cities. We've had her busy this past year, as you can see. And her little Google glasses that she has in the picture, she's testing out technology, which is pretty fun. I'm going to highlight just a few more stories here. I know on the top here, Sharon Rodriguez is somewhere hiding in the back here. There we go. So Sharon literally runs my group. I mean, she's head of strategy for my group globally, so the 2,600 employees. She has to figure out what we're doing and where we're going and helping us get there. I love the advice I've heard earlier today. As good as we can be, if we can't present and do a story around it, we really don't have that buy-in. We will lose interest. So Sharon helps create those stories and slides that we saw earlier to help us get there. And just continuing on, just a few more things I wanted to share. So I'm going to come back to 1 or 2 more of those. So this is a skill which I think it takes a lot of development to do. And there's a little background to this story. And I think a few of you have actually heard me say this before, but we'll repeat it. So the story was I was at Citibank, Smith Barney, and specifically at that point, Smith Barney, Solomon Smith Barney. And I got, my boss, he was a CIO for Smith Barney, got a big opportunity in Citi to run a third of the company. And he left. And I waited, and the next thing you know, I got a call. And he's like, he wants me to come work for him. Head of innovation for a third of the company. And this was a long time back. This was, for me, that was a huge opportunity. It was a step up, promotion, senior VP in that point in time. And it was a step up. And, I took the opportunity. I'm like absolutely excited, went. And what happened next was interesting. His org fell apart the first week I was there. Not caused by me, but literally, you got to get used to this. In corporate environment, it's like it is a living, breathing thing, and things happen, and change happens. So, the org fell apart, and what happened was, he suddenly had 20 to 30 directs. And his management team left and took on new roles. They weren't happy he was coming. And, he came in my office, he sat right next to me, and he sat down, and he goes, look, I know, you're working for me. I know that. But just logistically right now, I need help. And, you're going to report to Alice, who's my chief of staff. And, you're working for me, don't worry, nothing changes. But I was pretty disappointed. I was like, look, I just moved, I took on a big role, I left an opportunity. And I was definitely upset by that, right? But I went with it. And that's one thing I'm going to say is change happens, and just go with it and see who outlasts who and what happens. So what happened was interesting was one day I was on a call, and now I was invited to a call with a senior head of the business with every one of, should have been my peers on the call, all the people who were the managing directors of technology. And my boss was on it, Alice. And the call ends, and she calls me in, and she goes, what didn't you hear? And I'm like, I start thinking, like, okay, I heard this, let me go notes. And she's like, no, what didn't you hear? And it was the first time anyone ever asked me that question. So what didn't I hear? And it actually made me think about that. And I said, you know what? I heard the business asking for help, and not one person in technology jumped in to help. She said, exactly. So that business partner felt very left out. They didn't get what they were looking for, which was just someone to listen to them. So she said she learned that sometimes to take on more, you have to volunteer to do the small things that you don't think are the sexy, exciting things, but you'll find that that's the way forward. So she's like, she got to where she was by taking minutes at one meeting. That's it. She volunteered to take minutes. No one else did. And she's a director at that point. So, I volunteered. I emailed everyone, and I was the nobody in the call. And I said, hey, let me take a shot at just getting a mind map together, a brainstorm session together, to get ideas, non-threatening. None of my technology partners saw me as a threat. Everyone said, go for it. Great, go. Have it your way. And within 1 week, I got some ideas together. I started to show what I could do. And then another week, I was showing more ideas and helping drive it. And by the third week, I was the co-lead of the project with the business. The business partner didn't exactly know what he wanted to do. And I very quickly learned that if you want to take over something, there are ways to do that. So I did, and that's all part of the political role, brother. So the answer is listen to what's not being said. Look for what's not being done. It's an opportunity for you to show your stuff. With that said, one of the highlights there, I'm going to actually go through two things. Let's see if, there we go. So there was an idea we had for an app called Infinity. And Infinity, it's live. You could download it today on your phone. It's free. You don't have to be a MetLife customer. But Infinity was the idea that could we actually build a social mobile app in the cloud to allow consumers to store their legacy. All digital content, everything that's important to you, designed to be released to someone at a future date. And it was our idea. It was something which I thought of. I'm like, this is pretty cool. I gave it to one of my directs. So Jillian was on the previous page. She's based in Dublin. I trust her immensely. She's delivered in Citi in environments that were more complex, 102 countries, and she's delivered. So I gave this to her. I said, run with it. She got it all the way to production. What happened was interesting was, while we were nearing production in 2013, someone came to me, Peggy, her name is, came to me. I didn't know who she was. She worked in production support, which when you think of production support, Not very exciting. You might say, okay, it's there. It's keeping the business running. She came and she said, you're about to go out. Do you need help in supporting this app? Absolutely, go for it. So she started to do support. What happened next is interesting. So I now know who she is. I'm now talking to her, but she's in a support role. And as the application started taking off, a new project was starting up I needed Jillian's help on in Japan. And she's actually been leading the largest project in the company she's leading today. So it's 8 digits, or it's $100 million at this point, technology effort. And she's leading it from Japan. I know what she could do. She's done it. But what happened next was interesting was Peggy, in support role, started to show what she could do. And she started to take the business calls. She started to take over. She started to show that she could do this. Where the point was that Jillian said she could lead it. She owns the app, run with it. So for the past year, Peggy's been running Infinity. 3 countries, 4 more countries coming aboard this year. 30,000 downloads and users, and we track it. We were notified. We were, how do I say this right? So the App Store selected us to be reviewed as a featured app. So that might come one day. We'll see when it actually comes, but that would be pretty cool. And we're insurance. We're MetLife, which is interesting. So she actually stepped up. Now, what's interesting was then in Japan, we started to hit issues. And my first thought was, get Peggy there. And Peggy is 3 weeks on the ground in Tokyo and 1 week in Raleigh, North Carolina. So that's what it's about. It's just some examples. We have a lot of examples like that in MetLife. And finally, so back to Amy with the Google Glasses. I did ask Amy, I'm like, you know what? There's this new technology. So we have to keep abreast of everything happening in technology. It's changing all the time. One of my friends from another company dropped something on my desk and says, what could you do with this? And it's called 4D technology. Anyone see the IKEA commercial where you're testing the furniture with your phone around the house? Like, what does this look like? What is this? So 4D technology is you're looking at a 3D world through your phone, and the 4th D is the phone, and you could interact with it. I was blown away, but I couldn't think of a single thing to do with this. And so I gave it to Amy. And I said, we're doing recruiting in Raleigh. There's an app we built called Synapse. And I said, let's figure out what to do with this. And we took a very small investment, and we basically gamified our recruiting efforts. And she led the project. It was submitted to the App Store last week, so you could see it next week in the App Store. I'm going to see if I could show you what this is. So what it's actually doing is it's scanning the image, and the technology is able to render anything on top of what you do. So you can walk through a home and basically look at a home. But what we built was, as I mentioned, we're building a campus in Raleigh, North Carolina. 2,000 technologists will be there. We're already up to about 800 or 900. So if you hold this up, this is just a regular piece of paper. Once it actually sees the image, it's going to render the campus of Raleigh on the paper. So what we could do is literally walk through it. So if you turn the paper a little bit, maybe at an angle, you'll see it moves, and we can still see her hands, so she's still there. And if I click the blimp, we could actually take a ride on the blimp and look at the buildings.
That's so awesome.
And if I click, let's go in and actually see, maybe there's leadership. So we could fly through the building. We had the buildings built out in the same gaming engine you see like Call of Duty or other games. And you could literally go sit in the auditorium.
Really cool. That is very cool.
And we could actually meet the leadership team. So you could watch a video from someone. So it's just an idea. The idea is we have to figure out that is me, and I'll switch the computer. Questions are later, right? Okay, I'm glad that worked. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.